Greetings. I am Dorothy Dowling. Welcome to It's Personal Stories, a hospitality podcast dedicated to highlighting the inspiring journeys of leaders in the hospitality industry. We are a nonprofit organization focused on empowering personal success. Today, I am delighted to welcome Lukasz Dabrowski, Senior Vice President, Global Supplier Relations at HRS. Lukasz, it's truly an honor to have you with us today.
Dorothy, thank you for having me. The honor is mine. I consider this interview one of the highlights and peaks of my career so far. So really appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Wow, that's a wonderful compliment to all of us. Thank you. So our conversations are all about empowering personal success through the lived experience, lessons, and wisdom of extraordinary leaders like yourself. So we are very much looking forward to your wisdom today.
I hope I live long enough to live up to half of those compliments, though.
Okay, you're too kind. All right, well, maybe let's get right to it because your career is extraordinarily impressive. You have spanned continents, companies, and challenges throughout your career. I'm wondering if you can walk us through your career journey and how intentional the career mapping was that really shaped the opportunities that you chose to pursue.
I'll try to wrap it up in the next 4 hours. So let me start with, only kidding. I was attracted to step into the, let's say, professional world quite early in my life. Being an introvert teenager, I decided I had to kind of break that barrier between me and other people in terms of communicating, public speaking, et cetera, decided to throw myself into the deep waters and became a tour guide at the age of 17. I'm born and raised in Warsaw, Poland. So this was my sort of initial realm and then extended into some European countries. I was active in the UK, in Western Europe, in France as well. Some years into it, I decided I need to stay put for a little longer, and I joined one of the leading global chains in 1997. That was Marriott International. Went through all of the ranks and started really low. Made it into sales and marketing, and from then on expanded into multiple different countries. So went from Poland all the way through to UK, Greece, France, done multiple projects in Russia and the US. Got extremely attracted to exploring international territories and cultures. I was lucky to then continue that with my next employer. It's HRS, celebrated my 15th anniversary quite recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the cool thing about it, none of those 15 years felt alike or the same. They were also full of excitement and international travel. 5 years into the job, I went into my first global role, operating out of Germany, but literally living on an airplane. Since then, since 2014, late, I do circle the world anywhere from 5 up to 15 times each year. I then moved from Germany to Japan, which was my official Asia Pacific residence, Tokyo, but spent most of my time in China, Southeast Asia, India, Australia. So really covered the entire region, all the way up until COVID came out to greet us on that side of the world a little earlier than in the West. I took that opportunity as a silver lining, relocated back to Europe, and I'm still performing my global supplier relations duties, but based out of south of Europe, out of Greece these days.
I wonder if we could explore a little bit more around just the leadership roles. And you have taken on some really complex assignments in terms of building the HRS brand and the relationships around the world. I'm wondering if you could help our audience understand what drew you to these opportunities and how taking on all of these really significant global roles really shaped you personally and professionally.
So I've always been a curious person, and I think that really helps. I mean, growing up in socialist Poland leaves you hungry for experiencing, anything outside of the Iron Curtain. I was doing a lot of reading, and the opportunity to travel was always a dream of mine. So as simple as it is, that was my motivation. That was my sort of main reason for pursuing international opportunities. And I have to say, it's also about, very quickly into it, realizing that with travel comes a very unique type of learning that is based on cultural experiences, that is based on different observations in terms of how markets tick, how different businesses operate in those markets. And I found that absolutely fascinating. And one of those, I think, underlying common denominators was always, yes, getting through the intercultural bit. So really understanding the way that locals think and the way they engage in business. That's definitely something that impacted my business acumen a lot. I even call it international imagination. I consider it one of the pretty significant qualities in business these days. So yeah, that's probably the main reason.
If I may, Lukasz, I mean, you have some of the roles and just the responsibilities that you took on, particularly driving growth in China, and you were really blazing new trails. I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit more about some of those cultural learnings, because I agree with you. When you travel the world, I think you get a very different perspective. But when you have to develop business in a brand new territory for a company with the kind of leadership role you had, and you had to staff and build the partner relations and really figure out the go-to-market strategies in many different territories around the world. I'm just wondering if there's any wisdom from all of those experiences that you could share with our audience.
Yeah, I would say that the number one would always be stay humble, keep your eyes and ears open, and really try to invest in understanding your surroundings, both in terms of culture and the business. Never assume anything about that, whatever great business model you might be operating that works fantastically well in, I don't know, Western Europe or in North America will instantly be successful in the other areas of the world, in Latin America, Asia Pacific, in Africa. That is something that should never be assumed, and you actually have to, with the value proposition that you operate with, you have to act as I like the comparison of a key maker, right? So you have the same materials, and these are the elements of the value proposition that you carry, but you have to cut the key to fit the lock to a particular market. So it is the same elements of the value proposition, but they might be played and orchestrated in a different fashion to achieve success in a new territory. And that's based on a huge set of circumstances. A handshake in North America doesn't equal a handshake and a smile in Japan or in China. So yeah, just when you think you might be getting ahead, next morning might bring a slight disappointment.
Yeah,
I think that's all beautiful. That's just part of the diversity of our planet.
well, I really love the way that you sort of thought about it as being a key and unlocking the value proposition in a different way and being able to nuance how that door might open. So, and I also really love the message about being humble, Lukasz, because I do think that is a really important thing when you go into another country, is to not to assume that the way that you think is the way that others may think, and the way you might attack a problem is the way that they may approach problem solving. I wonder if we could talk a little bit more about that, because given some of the territories that you've had to really unlock some of that value proposition and really think about problem solving in some of those territories, is there an approach that you used in terms of breaking down some of those complex challenges and figuring out how to solve the problem in those different territories around the world?
So I definitely, yes. I was growing up as a big fan of Stephen Covey and the Seven Habits. So seek first to understand, then to be understood would be the number one rule to apply. And there's really nothing wrong with staying silent and just listening and observing in the first meetings that you go to when establishing yourself in a new territory, in a new market. It's actually not just a sign of that you're open to take in this new knowledge and experience, but it's also a major sign of respect that I think, especially when it comes to the cultures outside of the Western hemisphere, makes a huge difference. So that would be number one. Then I would always question any problem that I encounter, and also the opportunities that I encounter with the 5 whys. So it really is about getting to the bottom of the root cause of what is the issue, what is the challenge, what is the problem, but also, why do we see certain things as opportunities? Why do we see these concrete elements as successful, as valuable elements of the proposition that we bring to the table? And it's not about assuming and simply taking it for granted. This is where most people think that they've won. No, it's also about understanding exactly why. What is that thing that triggers a buying decision, for instance? So over time, I think the one reflection that grew on me, and one of the elements of problem solving that I incorporated in my methodology is data. So yeah, I would not make a single call without having all the data that is relevant to making a decision in front of me. That came with experience and age.
And some of the technology that has empowered some of that information to us in different ways as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about some of the people that have, influenced your career, the mentors, the champions, allies that have helped you grow and help shape your leadership. I'm wondering if there's lessons learned that you would offer to the audience.
Most definitely. I have to say, looking back, I know I was blessed. I was truly lucky to come across inspirational leaders, mentors, allies, and partners that helped me grow, that believed in me, that respected me, and for whatever reason, have chosen to stay by my side. It is extremely important to cherish those relationships, as they are the additional evidence or validation that every human being needs in terms of proving their worth and that they're heading in the right direction. So the only additional thing that I have to add is Arthur Schopenhauer being my favorite philosopher that I grew up reading a lot of, an Austrian gentleman, was one of his papers he wrote was about that the majority of our learnings in life, the majority of what we know, is based on negative versus positive examples. And I think most of us, we like to quickly forget about those negative examples that we see, as in, oh, I'll never be that person, or I will never act like that. While down the road, and now looking back, I can definitely say that it is true. Yes, there is definitely more of those examples, and they're extremely valuable when you actually acknowledge their value properly. So yeah, most of our learnings come from what we would normally consider mistakes or failures or hardships. All of that is far more common than success and happiness. And yeah, they're to be valued equally, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for sure it is that growth mindset that you're referencing, Lucas, in terms of approaching um, failures or things that didn't quite work out the way we would have hoped, as really learning from those and being able to go back and sort of do that forensic kind of assessment of what we might have done differently and how that might have changed outcomes. But I really do appreciate how humble you are and the way you think about that leadership journey. And I also have great respect when you talk about how people identified something in you that maybe you didn't necessarily see yourself. But I do think you've had an incredible career and you've taken on extraordinary challenges. So I think there are many that look up to you in terms of just the kind of ways that you have embraced really difficult assignments and have taken them on and have been so successful in executing on all of those things. I'm wondering if we can talk even more about that, because when I look at the way the business travel space in particular is undergoing in what I consider maybe the largest sea change I have seen in my career, particularly with AI and modernization of business travel retailing. I would love for you to share with the audience how you really stay on top of all of, the change management and your learning and your ability to add so much value to your global partners.
So, Dorothy, first and foremost, thank you very much for all the kind words and compliments coming from you. It means a lot to me. Trust me. I think we go back many, many years. Thank you for that. Yes, I think the sort of, again, back to Stephen Covey's example, sharpening the saw, the last of the 7 habits, is something that comes to mind in terms of investment in personal growth. And I think a lot of us tend to perceive personal growth as a certain process that is very sort of defined and locked in, and maybe even planned or orchestrated inside our Outlook calendars. But it kind of, to me, it happens on a daily basis and quite often very seamlessly. So my perspective is the following. I'm very lucky to be surrounded by pure innovation on a daily basis. So the business that I work for, the colleagues that I work with are industries, innovators, entrepreneurs, and disruptors. And that goes back to the point of the 5 whys, and that goes back to identifying opportunities and pain points and addressing them with a lot of effort and conviction. In that process, there is no such thing as a failure, to be honest. There is either a win or a learning to be applied, and I very much respect company cultures that have that built into them. So allowing for people of any rank in the company to actually try, and if a mistake is made, then that mistake is considered a valuable learning. That learning element that learning aspect is also something that is tremendously important to me. I feel accomplished at the end of the day when I have learned something new, even if it's a minor detail, but something that I didn't know yesterday. That drives me. I would probably die of boredom in any other environment that is maybe more like a Swiss watch in terms of predictability of operations. And yeah, and last but not least, to the point of sharpening the saw, I think it's extremely important to connect the effort that we invest into growing personally with making sure that we also have the time to unwind. to regain energy, to recharge, to go back to our power bank, whatever that might be. I definitely appreciate that part a lot, being where I am.
Well, I think you've offered some really important elements there, because I do think immersing yourself with colleagues, and that they may be within your company and certainly within the industry, that really we all mentor each other, and I think we all offer lots of opportunities to grow together. And I think sometimes just the work you have done through the industry engagement that you have committed to has really powered a lot of that learning for you, Lukasz, and as well as for HRS. So I always commend how active you are in the industry. I think the other thing that the message that you just talked about is just that organic nature. And I fundamentally believe for people that are in that sort of marketing, distribution, sales, that you have to stay engaged, because that is a lot of it just happens in the day to day in terms of the opportunities that present themselves in our activities. And I think the last message, which is something I have really come to respect as I've gotten older, is that recharging just refreshes your capabilities in terms of giving you some time to take in what you might have learned that you may not have fully digested, but also just empowers your capabilities, because you need to be well rested to really, I think, optimize a lot of the opportunities that are before you. So I think those are really important messages to our audience, and I thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome. Yes, indeed. I couldn't agree more. It's a major effort to tackle even the basic understanding of our very complex ecosystem, and it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of effort to get through it, to understand it, to trace, the flow of values, and also understanding of the business models, traditional and new, innovative ones. Follow the money flows, and really understand it from the inside out. That is far more demanding than it used to be some years ago.
I love that element. That's something I've always tried to keep in mind, is to follow the money flow, because I think that really does tie back to the value proposition, making sure you're delivering on all the different individuals that are looking to you to help them in terms of their business outcomes. So that's a really important message. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about you personally, Lukasz, because I have always loved watching you on stage. You bring so much energy, passion. You're really exceptional. And I would love to hear, in terms of you are often put into high stakes situations where you have to perform. I'm wondering if there's any wisdom that you could share with our audience about how do you prepare and deliver in terms of, not only the content, but just the authenticity of your messaging.
Thank you again, Dorothy. I try my best.
You do an exceptional job. You are one of the best.
Long way to go to match some of the best industry speakers, including yourself. So it's nothing too complex, but I think it, in terms of my personal view and style and recommendation at the same time, it's about a few basic items. If you fail to prepare to fail. So yes, the research behind the topic that I'm speaking on is multidimensional, and it's something that needs to be done very thoroughly. I'd rather not speak on a topic that I'm not confident enough about, and obviously doing that research, it's also about rehearsing the main points that you want to get across. So that's preparation. Second would be making sure that next to owning your area of expertise, you also know your audience, that you recognize who's out there, why did they come, what is it that they're looking for, what different interests they represent, what is of interest to them, what makes them curious, why is it that they sacrifice their time and dedicate their time to sit in the audience and watch someone speak or follow a panel. it is equally important also in case of any co-panelists and presenters, making sure that, again, we understand what is their point of view, shaped by where is it that they originate from, what business they represent, what are the key objectives that they want to attain through participation. And with all that preparation, I think, I would feel confident enough to appear on stage. And that is, I would say, half of the success. The other half is interactive. The other half is just about reading the audience. So, you will have, convinced very well, you'll have various different types of audience, very passive, half asleep, old, young, multicultural, you name it. And just looking straight into their eyes and confirming, assuring that they actually follow and that they agree or disagree is actually a phenomenal opportunity, because you can make twists and turns in your presentation to bond with the audience better, to reach them in a far more personal way than originally intended, or to leave them with a few simple messages to go away with if they're really not that active. That's also about making sure, yes, the key highlights or the key points that you want to get across are explicit, are well heard.
Well, I think, that is very strategic in terms of what you're talking about, because I do fundamentally believe that prepping in terms of content is really important. Then you had also talked about understanding the audience, because again, we are often put into situations where it is a very different audience, particularly when we're traveling. And then that third element about who you're engaging with on stage, to make sure you know them and can obviously work together with those individuals. But I do think that is the magic that you bring, Lukasz, in terms of the way you engage with the audience. So that element of reading the audience and then trying to reach them, because that's what I have seen you do on stage in terms of actively outreaching to the audience and trying to drive that level of interest. So I think that's really good advice. And then I also really love that summation that you're offering at the end to sort of just crystallize the takeaways that the audience may want to learn from you, to make sure they walk away with really that understanding of what the conversation really was about. So thank you for really dissecting your approach in such a significant way for us. I'm wondering,
my pleasure, Dorothy. If I again, I don't consider myself an exceptional speaker, but if I can do what I can do on a basic level as a former introvert teenager drowning in books, not leaving his room, then I'm pretty sure anybody watching can do better.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Lukasz, but I do think it's the intentionality, and I do think that introverts can flex. I am also an introvert, and you have to flex in those situations. But I do think it is really the preparation and really putting your game face on when you get into those environments, because you have to bring it to the audience to respect them and also engage with them. So thank you. I'm wondering if I could explore a little bit more on some of this engagement capability that you bring to the table, because you have generated an enormous amount of trust with the partners. You're extraordinarily well liked in the business. And I know that has been built over your career in terms of how you've really built and nurtured and protected a lot of those relationships over time. But I'm wondering if, again, there are thoughts that you could offer to the audience about how you have really developed that approach to relationship engagement and really continue to build upon that over your career.
Wow. So I think, yes, we're touching on one of the sort of most complex and sensitive points in terms of stakeholder management, stakeholder orchestration is probably one of the most sophisticated and complex areas of the business. It's about understanding the business model on both ends. It is also understanding what is driving each one of the stakeholders. If we apply the classic MEDPIC model, who's our economic buyer, who's our champion, who's our influencer, supporter, et cetera, it's important to realize what are they driven by in terms of perhaps KPIs or incentives. And last but not least, probably in the reverse order even, it's to understand them and reach them as people. So I would say in most cases, even when we're successful, we often look back and say, okay, I managed to tick 2 boxes out of 3. But it is not always granted to us to win in all of those areas. I think it really starts again with approaching every single one of those interactions with a lot of respect, with plenty of empathy, and again, international imagination helps if we're talking about anything that happens on a global level. It is about seeing the people behind the business, but it's also about understanding the business thoroughly as far as what is considered to be the win for the other side, what is considered to be the walkaway point, and then what is the pain point or an opportunity that we are trying to address in this relationship. I think this is also the time when data, comes back and is a true reinforcement of our efforts, a very solid foundation of our preparation and then execution. Without it, I think none of those intuitive ways would really work well enough in nowadays world. So, yeah, I also believe that the sort of the area that we operate in, the area of innovation, is always associated with risks. So if we try our best, but we under-deliver for whatever reason, or we even fail, it's actually a good thing to instead of try and sugarcoat it or paint it green, just admit it. That builds trust. That builds mutual understanding and bonds people.
Well, again, a lot of very deep content that you shared with the audience, and I would like to just reinforce a few messages that you offered, Lukasz, because that element of preparation in terms of understanding who's in the room and what their role in the room, and just putting some science behind that relationship mapping in terms of preparation. I also do think about understanding what's driving everyone on the KPIs or the economic kind of value creation that is expected. Those are all really important elements to really prepare. And I also think that human element that you brought in terms of understanding the human being behind the role and trying to connect with them in a personal way, in a meaningful personal way, is extraordinarily good advice. And to me, it really reflects how you have been so successful, because you always bring the subject matter expertise. I think you are very good at reading audiences and understanding individual roles and players in the room. But I also think you have this ability to connect with individuals as humans, which I think is what brings the magic, because I think when people like you, I think they want to invest. And I think further, when you have a point of failure, when you've got a strong basis of likability, people accept that not everything is perfect, but that's what relationships are about. It's like you said with Stephen Covey, it's the deposits you put in the relationship bank account, and sometimes you make a few withdrawals, but hopefully the commitment to solve problems together is what triumphs in the end. So I really appreciate you talking about, again, the preparation, because one of the things over my career that I have sometimes been disappointed is that a lot of people think relationships are just a given, and they don't recognize the effort and actually the preparation to really offer value to partners. And again, I think that's been the hallmark of your career, that you have really shown others what you bring to the table, and that's why you have so many meaningful professional relationships in this industry, Lukasz. So thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. It's every new day is another opportunity in that dimension. So it's nobody's ever getting to anywhere near perfection in that sense. But we all try.
Yes, for sure. It is a journey for sure. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about your team, because you have a team around the world. We're now in some markets working in hybrid kinds of work environments. I wonder if you can offer any thoughts in terms of how you really stay connected with all of your teammates around the world, and how you really bridge alignment across some of the geographical distances.
So yes, I think we've entered an entire new era of remote work, and I say, from the time when it started, which was still the early days of COVID, it was seamlessly easier. I mean, we didn't know it at the time because everybody we connected with at that point were still familiar faces. Mm-hmm. They were just on the screen instead of in front of you.
Of course, yeah.
And that changed some years into it, and plenty of newcomers stepped on board, new experts, valuable talents who nonetheless needs education, who needs mentoring, coaching, guiding, and who need to find themselves in a new professional environment with enough self-discipline to retain themselves in a remote-based position. So this is where I think a lot of how to best phrase it, a lot of attention from not just my side, but from many leaders went towards the frameworks, in which we operate. Not so much just the direct interactions, but kind of trying to paint something that we are imagining as a well-working remote environment. And there was two sets of inspirations that I remember very clearly. One is an excellent author, best-selling author, and a friend of mine, Kian Gohar, who wrote a fantastic book on collaborating as teams in remote working environments. It came out at the best time also. It was just towards the end of the pandemic, and contained multiple valuable learnings. The other is a book written by one of the former Amazon senior leaders. I had the pleasure of meeting him personally. His name is Bill Carr, and that chapter of the book, called Working Backwards, describes a set of management tools that are designed to govern an organization that may be spread all around the world, and with multiple people operating out of office spaces, as well as all kinds of remote locations. Essentially, the framework is based on very detailed transparency on the mutual understanding of how the business operates and how do I, as an employee, fit in. But it's far more complex and more detailed than, let's say, the system of OKRs, so objectives and key results, mm-hmm. right? Drawing those trees of dependence and whom do I need to succeed. This is based on utilizing a set of management tools that start with narrative, which is a few-page summary of the actual concepts, the vision, in great detail, no slides, only text, so that anybody can ask questions and request clarifications. That then trickles down to a set of key strategic objectives based on the strategy described in the narrative, and later on breaks down into anything that is how we measure success. So really input, output metrics, etc. Giving everybody that sort of a framework is making it a lot easier for anybody to imagine what does success mean for the company, but also to very directly and very precisely say, how do I contribute to that success? So it is focused on the collaborative spirit in terms of, okay, who do I need to get there, but also on the value of the individual in the overall success of the business. That I found extremely useful, and I practice it until this day. I don't think it will ever go away. So definitely that. Other than that, my style, as far as working with colleagues all around the world, it really is based on full open communications and not too much micromanagement. I may be old school in that way, but I expect people to live up to their titles. Titles don't matter to me at all. It's all about merit. It's all about whether they really are the right fit, and whether they enjoy what they do. So it's a very transparent, result-oriented and collaboration-oriented style.
Well, I appreciate you sharing those two books. I have not read either one, so I'm certainly going to invest the time in reading those, because I do love the thesis of what you have presented here, Lukasz. It's about the intentionality of communications. And certainly we have to have a much different approach in terms of how we really support individuals in terms of their understanding and really balancing out what that leadership communication needs to be. So I think that structure that you have offered adds a lot to all of us. I think the other component is I've always believed that leaders define culture. So that element of accountability and expectations and people stepping up and stepping into their roles and delivering is an important message, because I think we all own that in terms of our commitments to our employer and to each other. So good messages for all of us in terms of leadership. We're coming up to the end of our interview now, Lukasz, but I would love to just get your perspective, because you're a dad, you're a husband, you travel the world more than anyone I know, and you're a very hardworking executive. I'm wondering how you find harmony and support your family in terms of all of their needs, as well as all the professional responsibilities that you carry.
Well, I cannot say I have always found harmony, and the business versus private life priorities are quite often very difficult to manage simultaneously. I do remember a lot of sacrifices and major concessions in my past life, but I think what has helped me reach a point of stability, and beyond that, a point of happiness. You are talking to a very happy man, Dorothy. So
I know that.
It really it really starts with me being a huge fan of a Japanese concept called ikigai, which consists of let's say a roadmap of priorities to pursue in your life, both business and private. And it splits into four dimensions, but they overlap with each other. One is doing something that you love. Second is doing something that you're good at, because they're not the same things. They might be. Third is, what is it that you can get paid for? And I'm not talking about a lot of money. It's just whether you can get paid for it. And the fourth is probably the most complex and difficult one. It's about what the world needs. And in the intersection of those four guidance elements lie values like mission, vocation, profession, for us to consider all together. And I think that has driven me to understanding how important balancing those priorities are. I gotta say, probably too late in life, but yes, realizing the sources of my true energy, the benefits of my family time, the benefits of spending time in nature, which is something I absolutely love. Uh, Protecting my what I call the inner core, which is, in simple terms, leaving all the trouble outside the door of your home that might be work related. And yeah, the only other thing that I can think of is anything that is about physical activity, anything that is about my favorite sports uh, that I try to make time for now. But yes, Ikigai was the key, and it still is.
Well, you have shared a lot of profound wisdom with us today, Lucas. So I am very grateful for how much time you invest in preparing to share all your ideas with our audiences today. And again, I just thank you for all that you do for our industry. You're an inspiration to me. I love watching what you do, and I love watching how you do it. So thank you for making time for this interview today.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I'm delighted to be here. And once again, many thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, I would like to again thank Lucas, and I'd also like to thank our audience. And if you've enjoyed this interview, I hope you'll visit us at itspersonalstories.com, where you'll find webcasts and podcasts from other industry leaders like Lucas, which are designed to empower your knowledge and fuel your spirit. I hope to see